Chapter 10. The Nature of God. Throughout history, man has heard about the will of God, Word of God, the laws of God, and the commandments of God, and these have often brought about consternation rather than hope. We should therefore investigate exactly how man has actually come to know of the reality of God and what can be believed and verified. Traditionally, the main avenues of knowledge about God have been by revelation, illumination, inspiration, and introspection, as well as by intellection and deduction. Theology has been the province of the specific study of religion and the development of man's intellectual knowledge of God. Theology is primarily an historic examination of the elements whereby knowledge arises and blends into epistemology and the philosophy of metaphysics. The basic elements necessary for any form of knowingness have thus become the focus of analysis as well as speculation. Religion has presupposed that the comprehension, much less the experience of the truth of God, is beyond ordinary mortals. Thus, historically, religion has been society's primary source of information about the nature of divinity. The truths of every religion originate from the awareness of the mystics, who were the avatars upon whom the religions were founded. These were uniformly God-realized spiritual geniuses who were able to share their experience, information, and knowledge for the benefit of mankind. When we confirm their level of enlightenment with the described technique of calibration, we arrive at the following examples. Christ, 1,000. Buddha, 1,000. Krishna, 1,000. Christian apostles, 930. Moses, 910. Zoroaster, 860. Muhammad, at the time of the writing of the Quran, 740. We can also confirm the truth of all the great enlightened teachers, masters, saints, and sages throughout history, as well as the calibrated level of authenticity of all the sacred scriptures and teachings during that time. We thus arrive at a very solid core of reliable information with cross-corroboration that encompasses all racial, ethnic, or religious boundaries, as well as identification with a concordance that is verifiable over the centuries from totally different cultures. Collectively, the verifiable, authentic sources for man's knowledge of the nature of divinity are actually quite impressive in their unanimity and correlation. There emerges a substructure of irreducible truth that is sovereign to all knowledge, and which, in addition, is now verifiable by recently discovered calibration techniques, so that the teachings can be understood, languaged, and represented to modern man in a manner that is comprehensible to the ordinary intellect. A modern-day theology is now available which is logical and capable of affirmation. It is important to be aware that truth is not provable or subject to proof, nor is it in the category or province of knowledge that is measurable, such as the subject of logic. Truth is only that which is verifiable by the realization of subjective, experiential reality. Provables are merely propositions, whereas truth, like space, merely is, and consequently is not arguable. Descriptions can be challenged, but not the reality of subjectivity. From the totality of authentically verifiable sources of spiritual knowledge can be distilled an absolute, irreducible quintessence, a core of absolute validity that transcends all positionalities or editorializing for either advantage or gain. From the source of the subjective reality from which these words emanate, as well as the derivation of man's spiritual experience throughout history, the following statements can be made with absolute certainty. 1. God is both manifest as the totality and allness of creation, and simultaneously unmanifest as the Godhead, the infinite potentiality and source or voidness prior to form. 2. God is infinite beyond time or depictions of space or locality, without beginning or end. 3. God is omnipresent, omnipotent, and omniscient. 4. God is the source and substrate of consciousness, awareness, knowingness, and sentience. 5. God is the sole source of the energy of life. 6. God is the source of evolution and creation, which are one and the same. 7. God is the source and presence of peace, love, stillness, and beauty. 8. God is beyond all universes and materiality, yet is the source of all that is. 9. God is the sole source of existence and the potentiality of beingness. 10. God is the ultimate context of which the universe and all existence is the content. 11. God is the a priori, formless source of existence within all form. 12. God is not within the province of the provable or the intellect. 13. God is the source and essence of the subjective state of I-ness, called enlightenment. 14. God is the radical subjectivity of self-realization. 15. God is descriptively immanent and transcendent. 16. The human experience of the presence of God is the same in all ages, all cultures, and all localities. 17. The effect on human consciousness of the experience of the presence of God is subjectively transformative and identical throughout human history. It leaves a timeless mark that is verifiable as a calibration of a recorded level of consciousness. 18. The essence of God does not include human frailties, such as partiality, the desire to control, favoritism, duality, judgmentalism, wrath, righteous anger, resentment, limitation, arbitrariness, vanity, revenge, jealousy, retaliation, vulnerability, or locality. 19. The variabilities of the depictions of divinity reflect the variabilities of human perception and the projections of the impediments of the ego and its positionalities. 20. The purity of the presence of God is traditionally the essence of the ineffable quality of holiness and is the basis for the depictive term sacred. That which is devoid of content is the equivalent of innocence. 21. When the obstacles of human mentation, emotionality, and the ego's structures from which they are derived are transcended, the self as God immanent shines forth of its own accord, just as the sun shines forth when the clouds are removed. 22. God is the context and source of the karmic unity of all creation, beyond all perceptual descriptions or limitations, such as time or space. 23. Truth is verifiable only by identity with it and not by knowing about it. The absolute truth of these statements about the reality of divinity was publicly corroborated on July 13, 2002, before an audience of over 200 people during a public lecture. The audience was divided into 100 muscle-testing teams. The truth of each statement was then tested by the whole audience simultaneously. The confirmation of each statement was 100%, calibrated level 1000, and the procedure was videotaped. The purpose was to present credible documentation of truth in today's world, to provide validation that does not depend on historical accounts or ecclesiastical authority, which are often the subject of doubt in modern society.